Hey guys, super excited for this one. Honestly, this feels like my best podcast yet, and it's on the topic of momentum. On the topic of momentum and how it carries both ways. Hope you guys enjoy. Hey, podcast listeners. Hope you're having a fantastic week. As we're winding it down, wanted to cover a topic that's really been on my mind since I started in the content creation business or in the business of streaming on Twitch, and that's the topic of momentum. And there's a few different directions I can take this, but the main piece for me is that I get extremely rigid in the sense of that I have a lot of momentum one day. For example, there will be a day where the right thoughts just keep coming, and like I'm on a roll on Twitter and ideas just keep coming from Instagram, and like I'm engaging and there's a lot of good stuff on the internet, and there's just a lot going on, and there's just this overwhelming feeling of like, wow, this is like really cool. And it seems everything seems to be getting a lot of engagement, and people are laughing, and it's it's contagious when there's energy like that around. And there's days where I have that, and those days where I feel like I'm on top of the world with that, the following day, I feel like I absolutely have zero momentum at all because I can't match it because I'm looking for the same result, or I'm putting an expectation that tomorrow is just going to be like today, and that's almost like I can't do it, or like that, like, I don't know, it's weird, and so I think a lot of this has to do with how little I believe in myself. What I'm coming to figure out through this journey is that, I have so much self-doubt and I believe so little in myself that my mind will always go to, well, you did it one time, but you can't do it again. And I recently shared some content around like, whatever you think, you're right. I believe it was the last episode. And that statement goes really deep, because if I'm already in that mindset, and the reality is I'm in that mindset the day before, once I have a day like that, it's almost like that Sunday, like when it's like Sunday evening and the next day is Monday and you don't want to go to work. It's like that same feeling when that momentum wears down. Very similar to like when the high comes down off of a drug. It's the same thing. It's like, oh my God, I'm just thinking about when I'm going to get it the next time, or how I'm going to get it the next time, or how I can replicate that same experience. And the reality is that every day is somewhere where we've never been. We don't know what energy or wavelength the world's moving on that day, whether something sad's happening, whether something's happy that's happening, whether something good. We can't predict the future, and we can't put these expectations. And when I stop setting expectations about what the next day is going to look like, coincidentally, I have the exact same momentum as before. It may look a little different. I may grab more followers. I may produce what I feel to be better content. I may, I don't know, I may just have a flat out good day, and that's it. Right? And so when we continue to do things and not think about things and not put this predetermined thought in our head that it's got to be the same, or everything's got to look the same to be okay, we're setting ourselves up for failure. If I have already set up for tomorrow that it's going to be shit, and that it's not going to be good enough, and that it's not going to be the same as today, or it's not going to be anything close to it, and no one's going to like it, guess what? My actions are going to be a direct reflection of that attitude. A direct reflection of it. And guys, this goes for anything outside of content creation as well. Whether it's that promotion you're trying to get for a job, whether it's not being able to do a certain task at the job, whether it's not being able to budget right, whether it's, not being able to get the courage to ask a woman out, or a man out, whatever we have these predetermined thoughts and ideas that until we realize that that's a load of shit, we're going to continue to follow it. And all of our actions in every single moment that we do are going to reflect it. And I've been living like this my entire life, and I've had resistance to trusting my own intuition, and it's scary, guys. I mean, it's scary to have this feeling that is the right thing, and then you don't get the validation that you think from someone else. I mean, the real question is like, why do we seek validation in the first place? But it's like, it's a scary thing to do that. And momentum, to circle things back, momentum carries both ways. If I'm constantly in this perpetual state of not being able to do things, constantly saying no, closing off opportunities, telling myself I don't have enough time, guess what, guys? Momentum builds and it carries and it goes both ways. I mean, think about that, right? When we're constantly in a state of no and self-pity and only thinking about ourselves and closing ourselves off from the next opportunity, not walking through that fear, letting it corrode us. I don't know about you, but I start going to bed tired and waking up tired. No matter how much sleep I get, the days just aren't as good, right? And it just keeps spiraling, and it builds and it builds and it builds until I get tired of it and I say, fuck that, this is not the way I want to live. What am I not looking at? What is causing this? Right? These are great questions to ask yourself and be honest with yourself if your momentum is being carried in the opposite direction. Now, there is another side to that. And what's crazy is how thick the momentum and how big the momentum is in the opposite direction. Going back, think about it. If you have a big snowball rolling downhill, you got to push that snowball up and tilt the scale to the opposite direction. Right? Momentum carries the same way when it's in a positive direction as well. Right? It's just that when we have to be aware of when we're pushing that momentum in the opposite direction and it's positive, being aware that the mind is still very active, being aware that the ego is still trying to destroy that, being aware of these things, because guess what? When we're in this upward momentum, we're saying yes, we're finding ways to take action, and we're not thinking about the results, it's easy to ignore it. But guess what, guys? We're human and we're all vulnerable, and it happens. And that's really kind of what I just described to you happened between yesterday or really this past week of like me doing the podcast and getting out of my own way to continue doing it regardless of what that overbearing thought of like, you're not going to be able to do this, or it's not good enough, or it's the wrong type of content, or people aren't going to be receptive to it. It's being able to walk through that. And for me, I walk through that with prayer. And I believe in something greater than myself, but it's not just prayer. Like, prayer is a huge part of it. It's prayer and taking the action and realizing that everything is going to be okay no matter what. And that's it. Right? And to sum it, to sum things back up, like guys, the momentum has been very real. And if there's something in your life that's causing the spiral downhill, that's okay. I mean, we're human and it happens. But I'm going to tell you something that someone told me when I first got sober, is that you don't have to keep living like that. You don't have to keep thinking that way. There's no law that says you have to be destined for that. And I don't know about you. Hopefully, like, that hit me like a ton of bricks. No one had ever really broken that down to me before. Like when I first got sober, it was like they said you don't have to keep living like this. And no one had ever put it that simple. So I'm here to tell you is that whatever thought you're avoiding, whatever moment you're avoiding, whatever fear you're avoiding to walk through, you don't have to keep living like that. And just note that regardless of how you walk through it, just think about a time when you weren't ever taken care of, even in the shittiest of times that life's thrown at you. Have you always been okay? I'm not going to answer that for you, and I want you to answer that honestly. Thank you, guys. It's been a fun one.